Welcome to the Savvy Radio Show with your host, Savvy Landlord. Up next is the best deal ever on Fridays. Check out all episodes on SavvyRadioShow.com.
Today's Friday best deal. My name is Steven Van Kallenberg, and I'm going to share with you a best deal. I don't know if it's the best deal, but it's a unique deal. But all deals that have profit, I think, are a best deal. So I'm going to share this deal with you. It's relatively new, that just happened to me, and there's a lot that I learned from this deal, and hopefully there'll be a lot of takeaways for you as well, and I'll kind of recap it at the end. So this is a long deal, so let's get to it. All right, first of all, I got this deal on Facebook. I couldn't believe it because just a couple of weeks before this, how I got this deal, a girl was in the landlord lunch, and we're talking about marketing, and she says she gets a lot of her deals through Facebook. And I was like, I've never got a deal through Facebook. How does that even happen? And she said she's gotten deals through Facebook, and I didn't really press on it anymore. But sure enough, just a few weeks later, a realtor who's a really good friend of mine, a personal friend, sent me an inquiry about would I be willing to purchase a property. And the interesting thing was that was kind of, not my cup of tea. One, it was 30 miles away in another town, a really hot growing town called Mustang. But she was a realtor herself. And why is she even trying to get a hold of me? Because she knows that I'm an investor, and I have never done business with her before. She's a long-term friend from one of my closest friends 20 years ago. And it was just interesting that she even reached out to me. Well, I figured it out as I dove into the deal. That, and I was real inquisitive, like, why aren't you listing it? And I wasn't trying to be rude. I was like, aren't you a realtor per se? And she's like, yes, but this is kind of a conflict of interest. And I was like, okay, well, tell me more. She said that a relative needed to sell the property quickly. Of course, that's what I like to hear, quickly. And the daughter was being bullied at her school. This was during the summertime, and she needed to sell the property. They needed to move quickly as possible to Piedmont. And I was like, okay, sure. And, I was kind of sensitive on the deal because, one, I knew this person personally, and two, it's kind of a sad deal that you have to sell your home and move out by August 10th. We got to close by this day so she can enroll her daughter into the new school system. And I was like, okay, well, for a couple of days back and forth, I never really talked to the seller personally because, I just felt uncomfortable. Eventually, I kind of didn't pursue the deal. She would Facebook me. All this is through Facebook, which is even more bizarre in my world. No phone calls, no emails. Every once in a while, I'm like obsessed with Facebook Messenger, in which I had to add that app on there, but that's another story. So I was like, okay, she finally instant messaged me back and said, yes, you can. First I need to go see the property. She's like, yes, you can go see it. And then it took some time and prodding and pulling. Well, what do they want on the property? And of course, I know I'm dealing with a realtor that does retail. She knows what it's worth. And she said they would like to get 80. And I was like, okay, well, 80, I knew the property after some of now it's in a different county. I couldn't pull any kind of assessor information quickly as I normally do. And I just did some quick searches, and I determined that the property is probably worth around 105, 110, maybe 115, but it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath in a really hot area. So I was like, it was worth my drive and my time to roll out there. So I set up a time. I was like, give me the gal's cell number. So I even texted her. I said, hey, this is Steven. I'm the investor up front in personal. I'm going to head your way. Is it okay if I come view the property? So I drive out there like a blaze, and I open the door, and the house is packed of stuff, animals, and nothing like, I deal with a lot of stuff, but I mean, it wasn't clean. Let's just say that. And seems like there was a lot of stuff. There was a 4-bedroom, and all 3 rooms were pretty much full. And then they had a 4th room that was just full of stuff like storage. So, and nothing was updated. And so I walked through the room. I had my trusted handyman with me to kind of assess the situation. The guy that actually owned the property, the husband, he was an electrician, which was a positive thing. He rewired the whole house, but he didn't finish it, which was, of course, I understand when you're in that industry, you're tired, you want to come home and work on your property. So I saw that there was some electrical work that needed to be done. I saw that it had a relatively new AC. It was a brick home, had a decent roof. I'm like, This is a deal in my world. Now, but I knew that this was a fast sale. And with that, and not a lot of people have cash at ready reserve. So I just offered. I called her back. I said, I saw the property. I didn't even talk to the seller. I went back to my friend that on Facebook, and this time I called her because I wanted to know, and I wanted to hear her voice and her emotion when I dropped the bomb on them. In my world, I thought it was the bomb. I said, I can do $70,000 and I can close ASAP, and I have cash and I'm ready to roll. Now, I really don't have the cash, folks out there. Don't think that I'm some big superstar, but I do have a line of credit lined out, and I could pull that line of credit. So that's where the cash came in. I said I can close, and sure enough, they didn't negotiate back, which kind of made me a little nervous at first. I was like, oh, shucks. Maybe I offered, maybe there's something wrong with the property. And they accepted my 70. I sent them a contract at my favorite title company, and sure enough, within 14 days, I closed this bad boy. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. Now they should put me on TV. No, that's what I thought. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, $110,000 house. Boom, I got it for 70. Wow, there's so much margin. Yeah, right. Here we go. So I dove right in. One of the things that frustrated me is 30 miles away, and I don't have any contractor crews. I don't know anybody in that area. I got like one friend in Yukon, or a couple of friends in Yukon, but I don't know anyone in Mustang. And if you read my book, in Mustang, I have a bad taste in my mouth because I used to own a car wash, and I lost my everything on that car wash, called the Bronco Car Wash. And so I actually drove by there, and it's still in dire straits, not functional. And I was the last one that touched that place. Anyway, so that's side note. But if you want to know more about the Bronco Car Wash, pick up a copy of my book and call The Savvy Landlord, and you can get more details on that. Back to the deal. So I went in, dove right in real fast, got my super crew on it. They didn't really complain about driving 30 miles every day, but I figured they would, so I factored that into the extra bonus type stuff. They banged it out. It was a $10,000 rehab. I just did cosmetic. Now, a couple of things I didn't do, I should have done, but I'm glad I didn't do, was really pimp out the bathrooms. I kind of just left them alone and cleaned them up. Going back now, I probably would have sold it a lot faster if I would have just spent an extra $3,000 to $5,000. But I'm not a rehabber. I'm not a flipper. That's not what I do, and I for sure don't watch TV. So anyway, so I struggled with this property, and I got it done 4 to 6 weeks. Now I'm like, okay, what do I do? Should I rent this out? Should I try to sell it? So before I moved on, I called my mentor, and he's like, boom, it's $115,000. You got 80 in it now, 10,000 on the rehab. You got $30,000 worth of equity, roughly 20 to 25, 30 of equity, depending on what. Dude, rent it out. You're always, everything you do is under rented. And I do have a lot of things under rented because I like to play it safe. But he's like, rent that thing out. And I was like, okay, I can do this. So since I'm going to rent it out, and it's on a line of credit that's, on an interest only loan. I was like, man, I just need to refinance this thing at the same time. So I put it on the market, and I did my due diligence. I thought I did that. I can get $1,300 a month rent on an $80,000 asset. Dude, I'm killing it. Plus I got long-term equity. That didn't go down like the way I thought. Mr. Mentor mentored me. My homie mentored me. I found out the rents in that area after I refinanced this bad boy. So again, I had to refinance, and now I got a loan on it. Now I got holding costs, and I can maybe get $1,000 to $1,100 a month because it was an older Mustang area. The hot $1,300 a month rents, that's where we're out there. We're in more of a newer construction property. This was in the 90s, this house. So I was like, man, this is choking me out. It's hard to show the property. And I got one application after a month. And that application was not qualified. I know they could barely make it. And I just rehabbed it, new carpet, new flooring. I definitely didn't want to do that and then try to sell it later. And of course, this is during the winter months. Well, I bought it in the summer. I just sold it last month in December. So I had some holding costs. So I called another realtor. Of course, that guy, blazed over there, like, I'll meet you there in an hour. And I was like, oh, okay. So I drive all the way back out to the property, and he was going to list it before looking at it, which was a frustrator in my mind. But, realtors, their job is to get listings, so I didn't want to hold it against them. But I blazed out there, met him at the 2:00 time. Oh, and he already had CMAs. He had all the data that I need, and he was a wonderful salesman. And he said, you can there's no homes at this size, at this price. It's going to sell fast. And I honestly believe the realtor, and blah blah blah, CMA, and but there's a lot of things I learned, and I'm about to explain here in a minute. So we agreed to list it at 115. I'm like, but I didn't really tell him how much I had in it. That's rule number one. Don't tell anyone what you have in it, especially a realtor, because they know what your bottom line is. He did ask me what I wanted. And I said I wanted this number. I can't remember. I think it was like 90. But, I only had 80 in it. Plus, a lot of realtors are not really concerned with you and your holding costs and your electricity and your water bill and so on and so forth. So we listed it for 115. And nothing popped off. We had a bunch of showings and around 30 something showings. Now, there's not a lot of people out there. Well, here, I'll give you some caveats in here in a minute, but was 110,000. So I was like, after 30 days, I called the guy up myself and I was like, hey, Realtor Bob, I need you to, let's just drop this thing down to 110 and see if it moves. Boom. Dropped it down to 110 and got an offer right off the bat. I was like, okay, now here we go. I'm not mad at 110. You got $6,000, 6%. I got about $7,000 in commissions. I might, get 100,000. I'm still good. That's a $20,000 profit. I thought, yeah, here we go. This is your best deal. Learned a lot from this transaction. So the offer came in. They asked me for $6,000 in concessions, meaning I had to pay their closing. I had to pay their closing fees, like all this crazy stuff, because it was an FHA loan, and basically they wanted to buy the property, no money down. I was like, whoa, hold on, Tiger. Basically, you're offering me this much, and I'm paying their closing. So we went back and forth on that, and as I did my research, and from another friend of mine that's a realtor, is like a lot of folks that try to buy property from 90 to 120, they're going to need down money assistance, meaning you're going to have to help them with the closing costs. $6,000 of a closing cost? Wow, that's like straight hustle. I'm like, who is this realtor putting in this offer? Because I need this gal to be working for me. I thought it was big ballsy, $6,000 concession, home warranty. I was like basically moving in at no money down. And I was like, wait a minute. So, but I understood FHA has a lot of regulations. And so I was like, I gave her $4,000 or $5,000 in concessions. I'll pay all your closing costs with a $2,000 towards her closing, towards her down assistance. Then a couple weeks later, they switched it to conventional. I was like, this is kind of where you're going to beat me up and get the price way down, and then you're going to switch the financing on me, which it's easier than FHA, but at the same time, we're changing the table. But, going through this is a retail deal. I'm not real familiar with retail. Then they did the inspections. Then they came back with about $1,000, $1,200 worth of repairs. I got to fix those before we can close this thing. I'm taking all the risk here. Realtor's getting 6%. I got to fix the property. They want down assistance. They want home warranty. Shoot, you want to get your furniture too? For real, like you're buying a house, but I got to do, this is why I don't sell property. So we get down to the deal after I'm beating up my realtor, and I'm like, bro, I need to know what my net's going to be, because this is getting kind of squirrely. And sure enough, the day before closing, the buyer whips out an appraisal, and they have an appraisal of $105,000. What the? You just now at 3:30 the day before closing gonna say, hey, lower your price, because we had it under contract at 110 plus all these concessions. So let me get this straight. You want me to drop the price down because you just showed up overnight with an appraisal for 105 and pay for all the concessions. Hold up, pump your brakes. Let me tell you, this is not how it's gonna go down. And I was like, no, boom, I'm done with this game. I was like, F that, no way, see you later, alligator. And then I had to think about it. I was like, first of all, how long have you, they sent me this appraisal, it was one page. I was like, first of all, let me see the full appraisal. And when did you get the appraisal? Come to find out, they pulled the appraisal 30 days ago. Okay, so you've known about this And now I'm getting real heated. I'm like, first of all, this is pretty good technique, at the end of the road. Let me slap him with an appraisal. And I talked to Justin yesterday on a podcast, and Justin Gentry, he's coming out with a podcast. Get ready next week because you're going to get juiced up with Justin. But I was like, does this happen all the time? Because he flips a lot of houses, and he's like, it kind of happens on occasion. Okay, so then I was like, well, hey, I'm going to trump you with chess. I showed up with my own appraisal because I pulled an appraiser because I had to refinance it, remember? And my appraisal says 109 exactly. So how do you have an appraisal 2 months later for 105 and I have an appraisal for 109? There's something fishy going down. And I'm angry, and I was about to walk away from this deal because I just felt misled, slapped in the face. I'm paying all these fees, and you're trying to nickel and dime me at the end of the road. Now, if you called me 30 days before and said, hey, homie, this is my real appraiser, my real appraisal, and I can't buy your property because I'm getting a special conventional loan and they're changing all the rules and they can only give you so much for this amount and so on and so forth. Well, after I digged a little deeper and called a few realtors because I was like not happy about the situation, and I called a realtor, a great realtor, and he was like, yes, this happens. What could have happened that there was lack of communication between the lender, the buyer's lender, their realtor, and communicating with our realtor. Let me get this straight. So they've had this appraisal for 30 days, but no one knows about it, but only the lender does, and they're keeping it in their desk file, and they didn't want to tell their buyers that this may not go through or they can't afford it. Wow. I probably. And I mean, granted, I do real estate every day, all day, every day. And, I don't know how this would slip my mind that a $5,000 difference, which is 5% of the price of, in essence, 4.8 point something percent. Hey, so now I'm like, now it's the day before closing. First of all, I realized that we're not going to close the next day. And I found out with all this new regulation that the buyer has to go sign the loan documents 3 days before they close. Buyer's remorse per se. They go to their lender. At this case, it was a credit union. Go to the credit union, sign loan documents, wait 3 days, and then close. It's a new thing. Didn't know about it. This is why I stick as a real estate investor. I don't have to worry about all this extra juice. But I had to ask myself a question. Do I walk away and start this whole 3 month? And this is great wisdom from another friend that I contacted, another realtor. He said, if you walk away from this deal, you're going to have to relist it. Then you're going to have to go through this whole rigmarole, and then you're going to have to wait 3 months because they probably can't close in 3 months because just all the drama. And you have to go through inspection again. Now I'm juiced. In my mind, I'm over the barrel. And so, all right, now, of course, I'm a negotiator. That's what I like to do. This is why I love this game so much. I call the realtor back, the buying realtor. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I will lower the price from 110 to 105. Fine. We'll honor the appraisal. But I'm not going to pay all the closing costs. Done. No more. See you later, alligator. Because I felt misled the whole time. If you would have told me, I didn't get into the, talking to the realtor, and I'll still pay your $450 for a home warranty. And of course, I'll pay for all the repairs that were requested. And I did all that already. I did that at closing. And again, we didn't close, and all these people wanted to get paid. The electrician had to do some stuff. The roofer had to do some stuff, just some shingles. So there was like $1,200, $1,500 worth of stuff that still was needed to be paid at closing. Long story short, the deal closed. It was a unique situation. Wow. So at the end of the day, man, if I just said, yeah, I bought this house for 70, put 10 in it and sold it for 110, everyone thinks I'm a rock star, but that's not how it really goes down in real estate. You watch this TV shows and Property Somebody's Sister and all this other jazz, and it just sounds so easy, and you're rolling around in your little Range Rover. It was a lot of work. At the end of the day, I made like maybe 10 grand. Well, how do you figure? Well, I had to pay all those people, all the repairs, all the time, all the holding costs. And don't forget Uncle Sam. So I figured out this whole process took me 5 months from purchase to the end. And I may have made $10,000. Yes, $2,000 a month. But the realtors got $6 grand. They got $3,000 each. They got almost, 50% of what I got. So, and I took all the risk. I got a line of credit. If I fumbled the line of credit, my life would have crushed down, right? I would have lost my home or whatever the case may be. I had to hire contractors. They could have fell off the roof. There's 1,000 liabilities that could have went down. But, being a flipper is all things. Here's the takeaway. First of all, use a line of credit to close quickly. That's the power. That's how I got the deal. Now, there was an upside. I could have rented it out for $1,000. But still those, 1,100, the numbers didn't jive because my cash flow would only have been $200 a month, and to drive 30 minutes, and it could turn into a disaster for a landlord. Okay. Use the line of credit for rehab. So technically I really didn't have any money in the deal. So that's a good thing. I used the line of credit, uses the bank's money to fund this deal. But there was a lot of drama and there's a lot of retail. But hey, it is a deal. I did make roughly around 10 grand. I don't know what the end number is, but you can figure it out. I know you guys out there will let me know, and I'll know it's the end of the year and I'll be doing my taxes, and I'm like, was it really worth it? So I don't know if this is the best deal, but this was 20 minutes of somewhat of a learning lesson that not all things are perfect as you seem, but always factor in your holding cost, your time, and what's your end strategy. I wish I would have figured that out in the beginning. I thought this was going to be a quick deal, but I did figure my holding cost, but I didn't really factor in that I had to refinance it to pull, because I thought I was going to keep it. But then I realized I should have did more due diligence on what it was really worth as a rental. 4-bedroom, 2-bath, old Mustang, roughly around $1,100. So an $80,000 investment plus the distance, really, it was a decent exit strategy, but it should have been a little bit better exit strategy. So hopefully out there, you flippers, I got a lot of respect for you. You new rookie investors out there, you can do it. It wasn't too impossible. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. If I messed something up, probably did, and how I explained it, but you got the gist. I really appreciate your time and you're listening to me. I really appreciate all the folks out there that are listening to this podcast and are very encouraging when I see you or when you email me. It does fulfill me and it fills my cup, and I just want, when you do that, I just want to give back more, and I want to help as many people as I can. Well, anyway, my name is Steve Van Kallenberg, and you've reached the Savvy Landlord. This is the best deal so far, I guess, for the year. But other than that, whatever you do, go buy assets, do it right.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at SavvyRadioShow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook, and always be buying assets.